Hey, AfterBuzzers, you are watching Season 3, Episode 8 of The Affair. Stay tuned.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AfterBuzz TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
And when he died.
What was that?
Hey, everybody, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Like I said, we're covering Episode 8 of The Affair, and it was a weird, different, good episode, though. Much different than last week. A good, different vibe.
Oh, much
Do y'all
different.
think?
A
Absolutely.
good kind of intense in a sense.
Exactly. I
Yeah.
completely agree.
I still don't think it was as intense though.
No.
I think last weekend
Nothing
was
can be
definitely-
ever. I don't
That was
think.
probably the most
That was
intense we've
hard.
had
Yeah.
thus far.
For sure.
In my opinion.
Depends on which part you're talking about. Yes, absolutely.
Exactly.
All right. Before we get started, y'all can find us everywhere at AfterBuzz TV. We have the live chat up, so let us know what you thought about tonight's episode. Be sure to download, like us on iTunes, SoundCloud, everything. You can find me at April Whisenhant. Where can they find out?
Hey guys, you can find me at Nadine DP and the number 3.
And you can find me, I'm Lem Gonsalvez, by the way, and you can find me at The Poet Saint, and that's all day, every day.
There you go.
All day, every day.
Yes.
Okay, so I say it's a much different type of intense, but still intense episode because of the feelings that were brought about. And I mean that in the sense of, y'all know how I feel about Alison and Noah as far as being oh, they're it. That's end game.
Right.
But tonight made me feel all kinds of different. So that's why I wanted to see kind of your general feelings.
Yeah, I think I'm off the Noah Allison train. I think that is far sailed and gone, and that's just, there's no way possible that could ever work. There's children involved now, and it's
Right.
just,
Right.
I think we've made that clear. But yeah, I mean, tonight was kind of like last episode in a sense of, Helen and Noah trying to figure it out in a sense on both sides, and this time Alison and Cole. But I think Alison and Cole have kind of gotten to a place where they both love each other, even though Helen and Noah don't both love each other, I think. So I think that was the difference with it.
I think it was good too to see, because we did see kind of the coming together of Helen and Noah, and kind of the perspective that we saw. So now it makes sense. Okay, now let's see what we can do with Alison and Cole's character. Obviously, it was a little bit different as far as how them coming together, because I feel like last one was very, very intense, and everything that was involved. This wasn't as intense per se, but I was very surprised, pleasantly, with the whole Cole situation and what he said to her at the end. I did not expect that, or think that was going to happen.
Yeah, I didn't at all. And I think that, a lot of stuff that happened in tonight's episode, I didn't expect whatsoever.
Yeah.
Which kind of leads us, so part 1, we have Alison, and it starts off with them in court. And this is the big custody hearing that we've been hearing about, actually not for that long,
Right.
for a couple of weeks, but we knew it was coming up. And, they're talking about whatever, oh, Miss Bailey seems this and this. They call Louisa to the stand, and Louisa says Joni just spent a lot of time, or a night alone with her mom. She seems very happy. She needs her mom. Blah, blah, blah. Ends up in discussing joint custody.
I thought she was dreaming. I thought Alison was dreaming.
I
was
did
so
too.
I did
shocked.
not
The
think
whole
that was
time.
real. I did not think that was real.
I was like, no way is this just happening. And it did.
Well, up until I feel like I don't ever. Well, okay, I take that back. There was the last time that we saw Alison and Louisa together was when she came, and she didn't really apologize for what happened at the party, but she was kind of like, yeah, okay, you can go ahead and have Joni or whatever. She kind of conceded to what Alison wanted. So it was kind of like, the Olive Branch situation. But then we see, but it wasn't like they were buddies or really, happy with each other or what have you.
Sure.
And then fast forward after a couple of weeks, we see now she's on the Alison train and just yeah, custody, and she's a great person, and I'm like, what is this?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's something fishy there. That's what I was thinking
Right.
the whole time. I was like, what's up her
Absolutely.
sleeve? She's got something planned for this.
Right.
So when we were watching Alison's part, of course, we don't know what's going to happen in Cole's just yet. But I thought to myself, I didn't say it out loud, but I thought, it's because she wants her own kids. This is why she's doing this, because she wants to make her own life. Obviously, we know because of what actually happened,
Right.
that is what she wants. But I really did genuinely think that. I was like, something's weird. She's not just gonna, she even tells Cole later, which in his part, she's like, I didn't know I was gonna say anything.
Right, right.
It just happened. He asked me a question and I answered with the truth. But the whole time I was like, no, you wouldn't.
There's
she knew
something.
what she
There's
was
a motive.
saying. Even if she didn't, I don't think she would have ever said, oh, Allison's an awful person, or Joni hates her and is uncomfortable being with her. I don't think she would have said that. But the thing that made me automatically think something was because she was so overzealous of Joni needs her mom and Joni loves her, and all she could do was talk about how much fun they had and whatever she said. So I kind of immediately thought right then, like, something is up.
And I think you make a great point, because like I said, I thought they were she was dreaming until we found out that it was real life. We don't see the conversation yet between them two. We see it in Cole's portion or his version, but after it goes and it's like, oh, there was no dream segment, then I was like, okay, well, she, maybe she does like her. And then I didn't even think about, oh yeah, leading into like she wants her own family. So now it makes perfect sense.
Yeah. I really did think for the longest time, or for a good like 2 minutes, I was like, she's dreaming. Clearly,
Right.
like
Of course.
something is up.
Of course.
This isn't happening that easy, and it's very strange because The Affair does not give us stuff easily. Like normally everything is so drawn out in a good way. Like they do it kind of perfectly timed
But they're
according
very
to
calculated with how they give us
Every
information.
move is for a reason.
It's very calculated.
So that's why I'm like, maybe the custody thing, what else could they have done with that storyline other than questioning Alison and are
Right.
you okay and da 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 da. So maybe they just kind of wanted to throw it out and have it be done with.
Sure.
But either way, Cole, I guess, agrees to shared custody because the lawyer basically says he has to
Right.
because of Luis's testimony. And that's it. Now they're gonna split Joni, I guess, half the time. I don't know exactly like how shared custody works, but half and half. Alison goes to see Cole at the house that he's building and just wants to make sure he's okay with how everything went in court.
Right.
And this is one of the major differences, of course, between the two versions. Not just because of like, Cole getting that little notice, but the conversation's very different as far as, exactly.
Was it very different though? I thought it was a very similar conversation in the sense, because he, in both versions, he was not happy with how everything went down. That was kind of, to me, the underlying thing. He said different things, and I think in his version, he basically talked more about, because Alison brings up in his version about, do you think it's because of what we did? And he's like, no, and he shuts that down immediately. In her version, that didn't come up, but in both versions, he just is not happy with how everything went because he knows Alison's past, and he's like, I don't think you're ready for this type situation. I feel like though in his version, we see more clearly, obviously because it's his side, what he's really getting, the point of why he feels that way.
Yeah.
And then, especially when he talks about going, I went and talked to, so-and-so, which we'll get into.
Yeah.
But, I thought it was very similar.
Well, maybe I'm choosing the wrong words, or clearly I am, but I know that his, sentiment about the custody was the same. But I guess we just had a lot more dialogue in his. Or there was just a lot more said as far as this has happened, and this has happened, and this is happening.
Right.
And where in hers, it was just about, okay, glad to know everything's okay, and then the thing about Noah comes up.
Right.
And this is where kind of the only inkling in her part that we get from him as being like, oh, so you saw Noah? Why didn't you tell me about this?
Right.
Now, of course, he later says, you always hide stuff or you don't tell the truth or whatever, but this is, in his, it was a lot about Alison and about his feelings for her. But in her version, this is the only time where I was like, ooh, I feel like a thing between
Like
him
something
as far as
between
how he feels about Noah. Well, not,
Right.
of course I felt something between them, but I mean he's not, I don't think he's just mad because she saw Noah to sign the divorce papers. I think in the real world, someone would be like, oh, okay, good. You got
Happy
divorced,
about
because
that, yeah.
hearing it at the custody hearing was the first that Cole had ever heard about it, I
It said
guess.
something.
But, he acted upset about it, and I'm like, really, you would be happy, but it's because the fact she didn't tell you she saw Noah for 5 minutes. We all know it wasn't for 5 minutes,
Right.
but whatever.
Yeah.
That's when I got that feeling of like, oh, he's like trying to feel something. Yeah. But I don't know.
I think the biggest difference between both of the perspectives was how intense and how much more aggressive she was kind of in his perspective. How she just kind of, he was like, no, I'm not hungry. She's like, yeah, you are. I see that wrinkle in your head. Like she was just the aggressor. And then in her story, she was very passive and he had to call her back. And I think that just shows how Cole thinks of her and that she has this hold on him. That whatever he says, she's still going to be a part of his life. He's still going to let her in. And Alison's is completely different.
Did you guys think anything? Maybe I'm just stretching, but the fact in her version she brings like muffins, and in his version she brings donuts.
Oh, I did, because I was like, I would rather have a donut than a muffin. So maybe I'm like Cole. I don't know.
But how is that so? Like, how do they not have the same food? They you know what you ate.
But
like,
they do it on purpose to show us how different
how they view each other
can actually be.
Right.
It's of course, like I can think back. It doesn't matter how long ago it was. If I had a specific thing with someone, or if someone brought me a food, I'm not gonna mix up a donut with a muffin. I'm gonna remember it.
Yeah.
But they do that. The writers do that on purpose for us to see, like, okay, things are altered. This isn't just reality and a perception that you're viewing. This is like someone telling you a story.
And how they view the story. And also, I mean, again, not trying to stretch, but in his version or her version, he ate the muffin in front of her, killed it actually.
Yeah.
With the coffee. Annihilated, like, okay, I'm done. And then in her version, when she brought the donuts, we didn't see him eat anything. And I feel like it's like almost like she knows what he wants. Whereas with him, because he has donuts, maybe he doesn't even like donuts, or that's how he views it. And he's like, oh, I don't even care about that. Why would you bring me something like that? So I don't know. Again, I might be stretching. I'd be curious to see what people think about that particular situation, but it was something that definitely stood out.
Yeah, and also at the end too, with her version, she was like, F you, Cole, and left all pissed. And then in his version, she left like, okay, bye, see ya, like, hey, everything's cool. And she was also done up a lot better in his version. She looked very gorgeous with like a nice scarf. And in the other one, she just had this, the dress that she wore to court with like a big coat.
I was like, oh, she looks rough.
Yeah, exactly. So that's how she sees herself, is like that.
It's just like you said, how in her version she's very passive, and his she's very aggressive. She sees herself as being very, meek and modest, and everyone, runs over her. And he sees her as running his life, essentially.
Like she's the victim in a sense.
And we saw that too, even when she came after going to Woodlawn, and how in her version how she was talking to him, and in his version it was very different. And it was almost like she, like you said, she's the aggressor. She's the one that's trying to not ruin him, but just like infiltrate his life structure and not give him. I mean, obviously they have the daughter and they're shared, but it's like it's almost like he feels like, I'm trying to go forward, I'm trying to push forward, but you keep poking at it, you keep doing this. Now you want custody. Now you want to go to this job, and you're so flippant with everything you do and your actions. So it's interesting how there's definitely a difference between the way they see each other.
Oh yeah.
Do you think she's actually trying to infiltrate his life? Because I don't. I think
I think he thinks she is.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think she is, but I think he thinks she is.
She's not intentionally trying to do it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, obviously I know she later does say, I love you, and then they have that whole conversation in the prison, which we'll talk about. But I actually don't think, I think she just loves like what's in front of her. And I think she sees, oh, I want this family, and I know all of these things can happen. I don't actually think that her love for him is genuine.
Like she's trying to be with him.
Yeah, I think that, according to how he saw it, it did seem that way. But I actually don't think that she's like in love with him. I think that she loves
You don't think
him.
she's in love with him?
No, I don't.
So that last scene when it hurt in his perspective.
At the prison?
Yes.
And that's what I'm saying. It's like I almost think that's him seeing that in a different way. I don't think she didn't say that. I think she said those things. I think she said, I love you, we keep coming back to each other, or whatever she said. But I just don't think that, because I have to go off of her versions, and rarely does it seem like she has like real feelings for him. She seems, just like she said, she's impulsive. And that, this feels good in this moment. so I want this to happen.
Which was his
Yeah.
version, by the way.
Exactly.
So who
Yes.
knows how much she said of that or if she did.
True. So I don't know. I just don't get. I think that she loves him in the sense of course, she loves him.
Sure.
That's the father of her child.
Sure.
They've known each other for years and years and years.
They've
their
been
entire
married.
life.
Correct.
But I think I go back to the parallels between like Helen and Noah, because she is just so stuck on him, and he's not with her, and that's kind of the way that I see it with Cole and Alison as well. I think that he is so stuck on her, and she's not as much with him.
Yeah, I mean, we even see at the end of the episode where they just had that long camera shot of him hugging Louisa once they made up. And you can tell in his face that, like, did I make the right decision, kind of, or am I doing this? I feel like that look, that they held that on his face for a reason.
Right.
And that we're going to see something come of that later. That, like, him saying, okay, I'm with you now, I want a family with you. I think this is temporary, and he's going to go off the deep end with something with her.
Yeah.
There's a reason for that camera. They wouldn't just, like, leave that on his face looking like that.
Well, we know everything is
For a reason, yeah.
for a
Yes,
reason in
definitely.
the show,
So.
for sure.
So a big part of tonight's episode was Alison going back to Woodlawn, which is the place that she was at for 6 months for,
Right.
treatment, depression, whatever else she had. And Dr. Perry, her doctor, calls her to go and says, I want you to speak to this woman who is going through the same thing as
Her name is
as
Kendra.
you. Kendra, yes. Kendra is a child. I
Poor
mean,
girl.
Super young.
obviously they didn't tell us how old she was, but we can tell she was very young.
Sure.
And it was just such a powerful scene between the two of them. And it's the first time that we've seen Alison. Okay, we've seen her be okay, obviously, but it's the first time that we've seen her talk about these things and seem like actually evolved from what happened.
Absolutely. I think Allison's character, just from season 1, has always been, she's always played the victim.
Yeah.
She's always been victimized when it was with Noah, when it was with Cole, when anything that, interaction she's had, she's pretty much played that role. And to see her now actually step up and be like, help someone else. And that, with something that she's going through, something similar. And even for somebody to even trust her in that, I thought it was very powerful, as you said. And I also think it was great for her character to grow and to kind of see, again, this is her version, but where she sees herself kind of moving past and getting, to being a whole person.
Yeah.
And someone that can help, not only help herself, but help someone else. So I thought that was great. I thought it was a great scene.
Yeah, I saw that though, and I was like kind of worried though. I was like, what is this going to do to Alison
Yeah.
after? I'm always worried about her, what these little things in her life. That I think it was way too soon for her to be going
Do you
there and
think
doing
though
that.
that wasn't?
I do.
You think that? I mean, too soon? How though?
Too soon in the sense that it's been 6 months and she's just got custody back. She's just getting everything stable, and then to go back to the place to revisit a place that she was at for so long.
It hasn't been 6 months since she's been there. She was
Valid,
there 6
okay.
months.
Yeah.
It's
We
been
don't
some
know
time.
how long it's been.
Right, but I'm saying she was there 6 months.
Yeah.
She's been out now. We don't know how long per se.
Yeah.
It has been some time has passed.
Yeah, but regardless, I don't know. For me, it's like I kind of want to coddle Alison because I feel like any little thing, because she is so spontaneous, she can just act on different impulses.
Right.
Yeah.
That if talking about this, is she really ready? Would that have brought something else out in her? Would she have gone back to the darkness in a sense? I'm happy she didn't. I'm happy she's not. But I was
Yeah.
worried when I was seeing that immediately.
I thought about the same thing, or I felt the same way at first, because you just don't know how it will make you feel.
Right.
I was for sure like, oh gosh, this could be a little too much. But then kind of the thing that sticks out in this scene to me is that even though, this show is built off, this is part 1 is Alison, part 2 is Cole, whatever, it's how they perceive themselves and perceive what's being happening or what has happened. She sees herself, according to this conversation, as being okay. And it's kind of like, it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks at this point, because she is thankfully okay enough to have this conversation. I think it's natural for us to worry, like, oh gosh, what is this going to bring up for her? Because
Right.
that's all we've ever seen. We've only seen when someone talks about, their child, or when something about death is brought up, she just breaks down. This is the first time we've ever seen her be able to, like, get through a conversation. And it was just such a powerful thing seeing this young girl talking about, she said, I think about trying to commit suicide and make it look like it's an accident, because her mom just wants her to be okay, and she wants her to get, like, past it all.
Right.
And when Alison is like, no, you want to live, life is incredible, and goes through this whole speech of, life is such a gift, and we know that it is because we know that like people die, and this is something that happens, and it was just I mean, she was so amazing.
One thing that in looking at both versions after the fact, when they're up the lobster roll and she's getting back and she's talking to Cole, in both versions she was very happy. She felt, and I think a lot of it was just not only a sense of accomplishment for her, but also it gives her something else to focus on. I feel like this whole time after getting out, she's just been focused on her child. And Joni, and just trying to, make sure that she gets custody, or trying to have some kind of a semblance in her life. And it's like, now this gives her something else. And again, because she has played this victim, she needs something to keep her pushing forward. And I think that, and that's probably why this is something the writers put in as far as growth for her character. I mean, who knows if it's going to backfire? This is the affair.
Yeah,
and
we'll never know.
we never
Typically,
know.
everything backfires.
Right. But I think in the interim, where it is now, I think it's good to see her feeling confident about that, wanting to pursue this, and give her, again, something that she can look forward to and feel like be a part of.
Yeah. And I think you made, sorry to interrupt, I think you made an amazing point when you were saying that it's from her point of view and how she sees herself. And you're right, this is the first time we've actually seen that she's confident in herself. We've all wondered what exactly is going on in Alison's head.
Yeah.
And if she views herself as okay, then she's just going to pursue things that are going to help her and just benefit everyone.
And who even cares what anyone else thinks if she's not?
Yeah.
Okay, so what did y'all think about her seeing Cole, or her going to the lobster roll to tell Cole about this, in her version anyway? Because, okay, so she goes to tell him, now they're going to start this grief counseling program of some sort, that the doctor thinks it's good for people who have been through a certain thing to talk to someone, just because it's better, coming from experience. And I genuinely, in her part, was like, okay, she clearly like hasn't thought about the details. This just happened. And this is, I mean, maybe we already knew this, but I kind of forgot, if I did, I guess, that Woodlawn was so far away. I assumed it was a good distance away, but I didn't know it was 4 hours away. But I thought in her part that it was just like, this is happening. I feel great because I just had this great conversation. I don't think she's even thought. And she says, like, I haven't thought about any of that. I'm just telling you because this is amazing. But I get his response at the same time.
And having reservations. Well, he knows her. He knows, and that's why I think in his version we see later how he really kind of goes in about her being impulsive and doing these kind of things, because he knows how she is. And I mean, we'll get there, but that scene to me at the very, well, not the very end, but when, he's locked up.
Yeah.
I thought that was amazing.
Me too.
I thought that was great to have for both their characters, especially Alison's character, and kind of given that. But anyway, going back to what you originally stated, with her showing that, I think she does care for him, and she does love him. Like, maybe not in love with him, I can agree with that, but she does love him. And I think she just ultimately, because he's a part of her life regardless, because of their child, he just wants her to be happy for him. She wants, him to be happy for her. And here she is again, making strides, making that accomplishment, as I was mentioning earlier, and she just wants him. And even like in, I think it was her version, she was just like, why can't you just be happy for me?
Yeah.
Why can't you just be, because he is hard on her.
Yeah.
He's been hard on her ever since she got back. Those been brief moments where he's just been like, okay, I'm gonna give you a bone. Okay, you can have Louisa. I mean, sorry, Joni.
You can take her off my hands.
It's a whole different show. No, you can have Joni and this thing, but he's really been hard on her. I mean, and some of it I can understand because he does know her. But I think now it's like, okay, I think she should be able to breathe. I think, she's given enough, maybe not, to his liking all the way, but I think that she's definitely made strides in what she has. We haven't seen her relapse or have any type of issues. And I think
just having sex with Cole was one. I mean,
aside from that.
Noah, so,
Yeah,
well,
but I mean,
not that weird.
not in relation to her daughter. That's what I'm talking about. Like, she hasn't just left again or just been anything like that. So I honestly think, I think it's good, and I think that he just really was she just wanted him to just believe in her and just be happy for her altogether.
Yeah, I think her intentions going there were not malice, but what I thought was interesting was in her version and his version that were both kind of the same was all he was hearing in her version was work and job and taking a job.
And being away.
And everything else she was saying, all the emotional part, he wasn't listening to that. He was focusing on that. And then you see in his version, she doesn't even talk about the emotional part. All he heard was, job, you got it. You're going to have to be 4 hours away.
Right.
So that was interesting to me that he just kind of blocks all that off and kind of sees what he wants to see and hear.
But even in her version, he was very...
Yeah.
He didn't... I mean, she said the emotional stuff, but he didn't
He wasn't
hear
listening to
whatsoever.
it. Yeah.
And that's where I think that she just wanted someone to understand, like, or she wanted him to understand
She
because they went
says,
through it.
he asked her, he says, why are you telling me this? And she's like, because you're the only one that understands.
Yeah.
Right.
She just wants to be heard.
Yeah, but you have to she needs to recognize what she just never does, is that what she does, how it affects other people.
Yeah.
You know
that's
what I mean?
Her,
because
that's her Achilles heel.
she wants to feel loved and like, yeah, look how great I did.
Sure.
Cole's not that guy. Yeah, you guys went through this together. You need to
Right.
call a friend to talk to. And I think she literally doesn't have anyone
She
else.
doesn't.
Well,
She doesn't.
I actually think he kind of is that guy. I think if she had been like, oh, I had this meeting with this young girl and like talked about the experience from that and how that made her feel, but then he's so logical and she's so, not that she's not logical, but she's not in comparison.
They're very
I guess,
different as
that
the way
he
they
thinks
viewpoints.
when she's like, and now they want me to do this because of this great conversation I had.
Right.
Then his mind immediately switches from, okay, you were telling me this, but now wait, this
Yeah.
is 4 hours away.
Right.
And well, clearly we know that because he's been there before.
Yeah.
And this is 4 hours away. And so what does that mean for Joni? And it just like switches. But I kind of loved the line when he said, she's like, why can't you just be happy for me? Like
Right.
he said, and he's like, of course, that's all you want because
Right.
it's all about
It's
you.
all about you. It's
And
all
in
about
that
you.
moment, I was kind of like, ooh, she does. Well, I mean, this is something we've known for a long time, but in that situation, I was like, oh, it is kind of just all about her because she really didn't think, okay, I feel great. This is an amazing thing. Maybe this could happen, but this. I just got custody. My daughter's in school. What's gonna happen? Oh, that's a good point because this means it is a couple years later. So it would because she's in kindergarten. So kindergartners are either 5 or 6, and she just had 4th birthday party.
Was it 4 or
yeah.
5? I'm not sure.
Oh, maybe it was 5.
Well, in kindergarten,
Way
you're
back.
5.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I was
kindergarten, you're
thinking
5.
Was her birthday
it's been
party?
the time. I can't remember how old she was turning in her birthday
Oh,
party.
at her
Yeah.
birthday. Got it.
Well, it
So I
must
was
have been
thinking maybe-
sometime because Louisa was all fed up. So
Exactly.
You know.
Yeah. But I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
clearly she's about herself in a lot of things, but she can't accept a job 4 hours away when you just got custody of your child.
I think too. I mean, aside from her personality and how she is, I think look at what she's been through. I mean, she had this episode where she has this child, then she leaves the child, right?
Yeah.
Goes to this place for 6 months to get better, comes back. Now she's dealing with the repercussions from that. She has her ex-husband who was in jail and who went for her essentially, and then all of these other things that's happened. It's kind of put her in such a downward spiral. And when we see her character after she comes back, she's always depressed and always sad and it's like she's looking for something. And I feel like and I think that's why in her version they took so much time in that scene with her and the young girl Kendra to show where she is and where she's trying
Her
to get
growth,
to.
yeah.
Exactly. And I think because she is so happy because she has some sense of purpose. I think she really just wants to explore that. And yeah, she doesn't think, but she was so, captivated by that, was just like, oh my gosh, this is so amazing. Let me tell the only person that I think will understand, which is Cole. And he's just like, oh, you crazy.
And that's just
But,
her.
yeah.
That's so her to be
It
like,
is her. It is her.
to be like, oh, this made me feel this
It
way.
is her.
That's so good. He obviously has points, but that's why I said I think she just went there to genuinely share in her excitement and not even. I genuinely think she hadn't even thought about the rest.
No,
Yeah.
she had it.
But
She admits it.
Yeah, but that's the thing is that we sit here and we make so many excuses for Allison.
Yeah, for sure.
You know
We
what I
make a
mean?
lot of
Like, and
excuses
this
for
was
her.
the first time where I don't feel sorry for her. I understand Cole's side so much more than I understand Allison's side this
Yeah.
time around. And I get it. Yeah, be happy and stuff, but still recognize and find that what you're doing hurts other people too.
Sure,
You know?
sure.
Or maybe just, I do like that she's happy and that she just had this great emotional experience that's moving her along or moving her character along anyway. But maybe go to Cole and tell him about what just happened and then be like, I really think I could do something like this. They offered me this, but that's 4
Right.
hours away. I can't do that.
Like, what do
It's
you?
like
How do you
she's
think
gotta
that would
meet him in
affect?
the middle
Right.
somewhere.
Yeah.
Because
Right.
of course, I think about how I would react, and that's why I agree with Cole, because if it was my spouse doing that, I'd be like, wait, it like kind of just overshadows everything.
Sure.
It's like, oh, you had this, but like, what about our daughter?
Right.
And, I know it's in Cole's version when she says this, but she's like, oh, she can go to school in New Jersey half the time.
Right.
I'm sure
Go to
like,
2
no,
kindergartens.
That's
Just
not how it
kindergartens
works.
They have kindergartens there.
That's not how it works.
And then she just like willingly was like, "Oh, you can have her for like the week, or we can like what? Now you're gonna just give up week custody of her? I thought you just fought for this."
She just wants to be happy, guys.
Yeah, I
She
know.
does.
She just needs to figure out how to go about it.
Right.
Yeah.
Her wording just sucks. We'll just say that. She shouldn't be a writer or a
not
poet.
right.
No.
Leave that to Noah, all right?
Definitely not.
Right.
Well, in order to make herself a little more happy
Yeah.
and relieve her stress, she goes into this little bar that
Yes.
we've seen a couple times.
Yes.
And this is by far and large my favorite episode, or my favorite scene of the
Scene was
entire
great.
episode.
Yeah.
I was waiting for this scene.
God.
So Alison walks in, talks about, oh, it's been a weird day. And then who walks in? Our lovely girl, Helen.
I forgot
yes.
this was gonna happen too.
My girl.
I'm going to go
Forgot.
ahead and preface this part with, and we've seen the preview for next week, obviously, but Sarah Treem, one of the writers, creators of the show, did tweet that this is not the last time we will see a good Alison and Helen episode, or scene.
Scene.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
So that makes me really excited. Anyway, so Helen kills it from the start. Like, so I know, Lem, you're a Helen lover. This is the
Your
first time
girl
I
came
was
in.
like, Helen,
Yeah.
yes, you were killing the game.
Yes.
She orders them both Long Island iced teas, and she says, so, baby turned out not to be Noah's, huh? I really loved when that happened. And I was just like, yes.
Yeah.
And then they end up talking about the divorce. Helen kind of Alison asks if she's seen Noah, and she says he's been staying at my place.
She loved saying
Oh,
that
she did.
too.
Like,
she was waiting. She was waiting. She was waiting for her to ask
That's
that.
about Noah. What else are you gonna talk about?
Right.
What else do you have in common?
She was
besides
waiting
Noah?
for that. No,
Like,
she was
yeah.
happy about that.
And she's like, my boyfriend saw him,
Right.
whatever. And then whenever she asks, when's the last time you've seen Noah, or however it comes up, she seems surprised, or it's definitely surprised that Alison has seen Noah. And when Alison tells her, oh, it's because, we signed divorce papers, she's like, oh, so we're both divorced from Noah. And it's almost like a weird bonding
Connection.
moment
Right.
between the two of them.
Right.
Yeah.
Even though Helen just seems, at this point anyway, to like just hate Noah. In this scene, I like got that vibe from her. They're like, oh,
I thought it was interesting too when they do kind of compare notes. They talk about the whole divorce situation and how Helen feels like how Noah was with her, and how Allison's experience with Noah was vastly different. And it was
Completely opposite.
almost like she was hating on that fact. She was like, oh, well, you can perceive how you want. Like you see someone how you want them to, be, so to speak, which was kind of like throwing shade on Alison, because she was just saying, oh yeah, no, it was this. And he was, he was all about his book and just pushing himself, and he was doing great and da-da-da-da. And Helen obviously was like, well, wow, I had to push him, and I had to, even when it came to my father or my parents and this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
So it was almost like Helen was almost doing a spot check. It's like,
Yeah.
let me check on this chick. Let me see what she knows, what she's about. And then almost like, and I'm interested, and I'm glad that we will see it again,
Yeah.
because to me, it was almost like Helen was getting some sense of closure,
Yeah.
especially after what we saw last week, when now knowing they will be together again, I'm interested to see what would prompt that.
Yeah.
And I think Helen, she was like, oh, just down the street. I don't know if I
Yeah,
believe,
right, girl.
I don't know if I
Montage.
believe that.
I don't know. I think she was creeping.
I think she
Because
was.
Helen, I mean, not to say I haven't creeped before, but Helen will creep because she's still in love with Noah.
Yeah.
Right,
Or she
right,
is seemingly
right,
still in love with
right.
Noah. And she wants to know exactly what he's been up to.
And that would,
and
and
she
that
wants
would
to
be a
know
prime
what
example.
Alison
Right,
has been up
Yeah.
to.
right.
I think it was a really interesting part to me whenever Helen asked her that too, because that would be something I would want to know as a woman. Like, okay, you were with my husband, like, tell
Right.
me what he was like to you. And I think she said what she said, like, oh, he was, I tried to make him,
Right.
stand up to my dad, because it's like telling Alison, like, oh, this is because, you're almost like a lost, weak person, and that's why he seemed this way to you. But essentially she was at the time, whenever, and still kind of is, whenever
Right.
she and Noah were getting together. But then it makes me think about, when Alison was with Noah, it was just a different time for him. It was his book came out and this happened, and that was never an opportunity whenever he was with Helen. I mean, he had that book, but it wasn't. Wait, did he have a book? Yeah, he already had a book, but it wasn't great. Whatever. Yeah. And so that's why Alison saw him as being so driven, because he did put out this book and it was a major success. So of course he would be more driven. Of course he would be doing more, career things.
And his life was just in a different space at that
point. I do think what she was saying, has validity. I think that Alison did see him as a very mature and a mature person who could really take care of things because she needed to be taken care of, and he did take care of her. Helen didn't need to be taken care of, and she kind of says that to Alison whenever she's like, this, what happened isn't your fault, because Alison apologized to her, and she's like, I made Noah stop feeling important long before he met you. And it's such, it's just such a powerful line from Helen, because
to admit that, to admit that,
and well, in an affair, it's no one's fault but the person who cheats, 1,000%. But she is taking her responsibility as far as like, okay, this is why maybe things or her part in why things went so bad.
She had time to understand that and really, kind of dissect that as well.
Yeah.
But what you said about closure, I literally wrote Helen needs closure on Noah so badly. It's just, I think because she's talked to a bunch of people now, and she's just realized that the Noah that was with her is not the Noah that a lot of other people know. And I think the Noah that Alison knows is Noah wanted to be a new person. He wanted to find himself. He wanted to be his own character, and Helen was just bringing him down. So who he was obviously going to be different because he didn't like who he was. And if he did, he would stay with Helen at that time.
And also to point out, like not Helen, but Alison was very, very apologetic and kept apologizing, like, I'm so sorry, he had a family. And for Helen to be like, actually, I can't fault you all the way, because this is what I did and this is why I know he stepped out. And I think, the whole show was called The Affair. Yeah. And I think that when we see in the first season, they were what each other needed because they were both married. It wasn't like, one was married and one was not. They were both married and kind of stepped out on there before, whether there are various reasons or a number of reasons. I wanted to ask you all what you thought when Alison wants to talk to her about and I think this will probably be a premonition for something later, but about the whole time that's the night that Scotty died, and Helen's like, nope, I don't want no part of that. Oh, I'm out. Peace.
So I don't think, and this kind of, I want to read some of the comments that y'all got from last week's episode. It has to do with that, but I don't think Helen knows whatsoever.
Helen knows what?
That Alison was there. That Alison pushed Scotty because Scotty was trying to.
You don't think she does?
I don't think so either. No.
Huh, okay.
I don't think Noah told her.
No.
I don't.
As far as we've seen, she does not know.
Okay.
And I don't think she knows that Alison knows that she was actually driving. I think that's why she kind of brushed it off, because she's like, what? Because clearly, like, Helen is dealing with this, like, not in good ways.
Sure.
So I kind of think that's why she just wanted to brush it off. Like, no, just forget about it.
Right.
Because this, it is Alison's ex-brother-in-law. So she sees that as like a family member to Alison. I just think she didn't want to get into it.
Yeah, I was just curious because, I didn't really give thought about if she knew that Alison was there or not. But if she, let's say she, I agree that she doesn't know.
Yeah.
Then for Alison to prompt that question, what would be the reason? What would be her? I'm thinking her thinking.
I have a theory.
What's your theory?
Let's hear
My
it.
theory is, okay, we've talked all season long about how Helen loves Noah and she can't get over him. I think, and someone said this in the comments, something similar, that Helen finding out that Noah went to jail not for her, or not solely for her, will be what does it.
Yeah.
Because I think that's what keeps her hanging on.
Interesting.
In a way, is because like, oh, well, he did this, so clearly he must have felt some sort of way, or clearly he felt so bad, which therefore means that he has these feelings.
And we see when he gets back from prison and how she is and wanting to do all this stuff for him.
I think learning that like, oh, it wasn't just for me, or maybe wasn't for her, majority,
That's gonna be huge.
I think that'll be like, I think that'll kill it. For
Maybe
her.
that's what happens when they meet again.
Maybe.
And I
Maybe
think
that
this
comes
was a
out.
setup that like she's like kind of forgiving Alison, and they're like kind of making like, oh, let's cheers with our Long Island iced teas.
Yeah.
And then that's all gonna just go like, no, this isn't gonna happen anymore.
Interesting.
Yeah, I like that. I think that, I mean, it's gonna have to come out.
Yeah.
It's something that they have there for a reason. They're not just gonna be like, oh, coincidence, haha, no one's gonna know. But they're gonna talk about it. And then Noah's gonna be in even more trouble as per usual. Noah.
Obviously.
Oh, Noah.
Before we move on to Cole's part, the last scene in Alison's part was the cops coming to tell her that Cole was not at home the night that Noah was stabbed, and that he actually used his easy pass. I'm like, you dumb criminals. He used his easy pass to go through a toll.
Dumb criminal.
Well, he wasn't a criminal, though.
Which is,
they don't know.
You know what I mean?
Potentially a criminal.
Yeah.
And he was, however close, I forget how close I said, to the university where Noah was.
Very
Where Noah
close.
was
Close
stabbed.
enough that it would make sense.
Exactly. So part 2, Cole's. We talked a lot about his, but the same thing opens up with the courthouse. Louisa's telling him she didn't know she was going to say anything. That's why she didn't say something to him before.
Right.
The judge or the lawyer asked a question, and she responds. And I think the most important thing about this scene in his part is that Louisa says to him, give her what she wants so we can stop thinking about her. And that's also when I got that other kind of... She's doing this because she wants something, or because she wants, I don't know, something for herself.
But I can't fault her though for that.
No,
like
of
I
course
feel
not.
for Louisa. I like before, like a few episodes ago, I was just anti her, especially what she was doing at the birthday party and all that. But now I'm like, yeah, just let her be free of it. It's such a pain, and I feel bad for her. She didn't ask for any of this, you know?
I just get it.
Yeah.
1,000%.
Yeah.
Like why would you not just want, okay, just whatever. It's going to be a never-ending process.
Yeah.
This is most likely something that's going to happen eventually because Alison is the mom.
Right.
She does seem stable. I don't think she would have said that if Alison didn't seem stable or
Correct, yeah.
Whatever. But I don't know. I kind of agree with her.
I think too, when Alison was not in the picture, she could make all the decisions when it came to Joni. So if Alison stayed gone or something like that, she probably wouldn't feel that way because she's like, oh, well, this is my daughter. But now that Alison is back and better, and now it is not complicating things, but it just, now you have to have the shared custody. Now she's in the life. Now she's like, okay, wait, I want something of my own.
Right.
Which I totally agree she should. I mean, she deserves that.
Yeah.
And I think anyone in that same situation would want that as well.
Yeah. So I thought we kind of said something about this when we were watching. I thought Louisa couldn't have children, period. But later when she mentions it to Cole, she says, we could look into adoption or a surrogate. So maybe she just can carry a baby. Or obviously she just can't.
Well, I mean, that would make
If
sense.
eggs are okay, then yeah.
I just thought she couldn't have one. So I thought it was like completely off the table. So I was surprised. Even though I kind of thought it, I was like, oh, wait, this is...
Like you can still have your genetics. You don't have to adopt, kind of in a sense. It can still be your
child.
Exactly.
Child in a sense.
So back to the scene where Alison visits Cole at the house. He has that stop notice thing, and I kind of started wondering in this part. I'm like, why are they showing us this? Like, what is this? How is this moving the story along? I think that actually could come back later. Because Oscar visits him, and
Oscar.
I know, I'm kind of loving Oscar. Right now.
He looked like he got some weight too, didn't he?
Yeah, good.
I was like, this marriage thing. Yeah.
Marriage.
Yeah.
Oscar takes a phone call from his wife and ends up calling her, see you next Tuesday. And then,
Y'all not going to talk about your boy Timothy?
oh, no, that's after, right?
No, that was before.
Oh, before.
That was before.
Oh, okay, well, let's talk about
because he goes
Tim.
about the
Because
shutdown
of
notice,
Timothy.
right? Because Oscar comes afterwards, remember, and was like, "Yo, you're supposed to be shut down."
Yeah, Timothy
yeah.
told
And
me.
Nicole's like, "I don't care about that, dude."
So why do you, okay, kind of going off what I said, why do y'all think this is a thing?
With the house.
The stop work. I mean, it's a pretty like random thing to just put in there. Why do y'all think that's happening?
Go ahead.
Well, I think that I think it's just showing for Cole that his life isn't going to be what it was, that he's not the king of this place anymore. And I think it just shows all of us how Montauk has changed.
Right.
And I think it was more for us in a sense as well, that like, because we saw at the end that in a week he's going to get someone there, it's going to be resolved. It's not 6 to 8 weeks.
Right.
So I think that was more for us to show that everything has changed in that town. And clearly you can see that by Oscar's personality and what he's doing with his life. So I think that was more kind of for us, but they also wouldn't introduce a character if there wasn't a reason for it. They wouldn't introduce Timothy. So who knows? Maybe Timothy's hired in by someone specific to mess up stuff with Cole. I don't know.
That's interesting.
By Oscar.
Well, Timothy ends up sending Oscar to Cole, so I mean, that's a out there theory, but maybe.
I don't know. I mean, I agree with you that is for us definitely showing how Montauk has changed for sure. I don't know. I just brought it up because you guys said he was cute, so I was
I did think Timothy was cute.
Not Tim, Timothy.
Yeah.
Not Tim.
That was
Timothy.
hilarious.
Yeah, that was
Timothy.
amazing.
And I'm like, okay.
All right, boy.
All right. But I don't know. I don't know that I agree that we're gonna see like his character really needs to be seen again. Like I feel like he's one of the characters that we saw like when Noah and how he went back home. Remember, and he had those the people that he went to school with, and like we see the one guy came in that was hating on him and stuff like that. I don't think we were going to see him again, but it was pertinent for that scene.
Gotcha.
And I think with him, I think it's the same situation. I don't think it's necessarily needed. I think going back to the shutdown notice, I agree with you as far as it's different for Cole, and it's going to be different for him going forward. And also, we see that kind of sets up the scene towards the end when he's like talking to Alison and saying, "Yo, I'm doing this to try to forget you, but I don't understand. I understand that I love you, and it's not gonna matter. Like I still love you, and I want to be with you." So it's like he's working so hard. It's almost like the opposition. It's like the shutdown notice is like, you still love Alison,
You still love her. I
so
like
you
that.
can't get past that.
Thing.
Good.
So
It's a
that's,
metaphor. You can't put that roof on because that house isn't done being built yet.
I'm a poet, guys.
It's
Come
not
on.
done being built.
Come on, guys.
You are a poet.
But no, I really think so.
No, that's a good point.
That's what makes sense to me.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's a great way to look at it.
I feel like that's a mic drop.
Yeah, dang. Like, I don't know what else to say now. I'm looking at you like, let's go. I don't know.
That's pretty much it. Well, so when Oscar comes to visit, so Oscar was sent there by Timothy to say, because Cole keeps on doing what he does and is building on the house still, even though Timothy said to stop because of the survey, whatever. Then that's when Oscar gets into the conversation of, my wife makes me miserable, but she's a, B plus, so whatever he said, I'm a C, so it's worth it for a beautiful family. I'm like, is it though?
Is it? Yeah.
But okay.
Oscar, that's when I saw like, okay, Oscar's still Oscar.
Yeah.
That was like when
For sure.
Oscar's still Oscar.
Well, because he seems like this great guy now, and it's like, no, you're
still
there's still some Oscar.
Still Oscar.
But Cole asked him, do you ever wonder what it could be like with someone else? And of course that prompts Oscar to be like, why are you asking me that? Are you begging Alison? Da, 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 da.
Right.
And Cole says, I feel like he should have said no.
He just doesn't say anything.
He didn't want to lie, obviously, but they, messed around one time. I'm not forgiving that whatsoever. That was wrong of them to do, of course, but it's not like they're having this secret affair. And it's almost like by him not saying anything, it kind of seemed that way.
Well,
like he even kept saying, he's like, you gotta stop. And I'm like, they only did it one time.
Well, he asked him. He said, "Are you sleeping with Alison?" And he's like, "No." I think he said no, and then he says, "Have you slept with Alison?" And that's when he was quiet. He didn't answer that, and that's when Oscar was like, "Oh snap! What is wrong with you?" Da 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 da, and it starts going in on him.
Yeah.
What to say. So I mean, it was, obviously a one-time deal, and I love how he and I said this to you all, I said, he swears him to secrecy, don't tell Louisa, and I'm like, come on, this is Oscar.
It's probably going to come back.
And it's going to come back, and I think that's why they showed us Oscar, how he was dealing with his wife and the kid and stuff like that. I'm like, he's still Oscar. So he's still out for Oscar, and he's probably going, and he's cool with Alison.
Yeah.
So I can just see this later on backfiring.
He's going to say something. And I think the reason why Oscar was getting so upset, too, is I think Oscar is trying, and always in a sense, to be like Cole. He looks up to Cole, and so Cole has this perfect family, so now he's trying to have this perfect family. And I think that maybe what makes him more heated is seeing Cole just throw that away.
Right.
Well, it's just like when, so Alison comes and visits Cole at the lobster roll, we see that, and after the scene between them, that's when he goes home and tells Louisa, okay, I'm ready to start a family, let's do it. because Alison has him like heated in this way over the stuff about Joni, and it's like only when Alison affects him in that way, that's what happens.
Yeah.
I don't know, it doesn't make sense. But the detectives show up at his door. They say, you know, we know he uses Easy Pass, whatever. And Louisa asks, like, what's going on? Cole ends up going to see Alison in the middle of the night, and they have this conversation on the pier where after he's arrested, so he's in jail, and they have the scene of, I still love you, I need you, da da da, and Alison tells him, I love you too, but this is your decision. So then they have this scene of where he's telling her, like, okay, basically we're done, but it's like they seem so not done.
Yeah.
In that instance.
Yeah.
But then he does go home to Louisa and says, I'm here if you'll still have me. This is my home. But I kind of don't believe it.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll have to see you next
Yeah.
week.
I know.
That's it.
We just had to wrap up that in really quick. I know, but let's talk about predictions really quick. 2 more episodes?
2 more episodes.
2 more episodes.
AfterBuzz.
Predictions. There we go.
There we go.
Kind of abbreviated.
What do you think?
Real quick, I think that we're gonna the stuff that I mentioned earlier, you know, with what they prompted us with. I think we'll definitely see that, and we'll before it wraps up, we will get some closure with this whole Helen and Alison thing.
And I think this whole episode was another setup for the next time that both of them come in to play.
Absolutely.
So this is a complete setup episode. So we'll see.
I'm going to end it with, I do still think Noah and Alison are in love. Anyway, thank y'all so much for joining us. Only 2 more episodes left. I cannot even believe it in the slightest. Like I said, you can find us all at AfterBuzz TV. You can find me everywhere at April Whisenhant.
And I'm at Nadine DP in the number 3.
And you can find me at the Poet Saint all day, every day.
All right, we'll see y'all next week.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.